Hello and welcome back to Listen Bro. My name is Joe and I'm joined by my brother and co-host.
I'm Ethan.
And today we are going to be telling each other some stories and getting each other's reactions to them, same as every other episode. And today I'm going to be going first. So for mine, I have, whenever you think of like American ingenuity and innovations, you probably think of like the telephone, the light bulb, the airplane.
Yeah.
Some may think of the chocolate chip cookie.
The rocket flying to the moon.
Yes. One that not many people think of,
Baseball.
submarines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The first recorded submarine and the first recorded naval vessel to be powered by a propeller was from the US in the Revolutionary War.
Really?
Yeah. This guy named Bushnell, him and his college buddy, basically this whole entire story got started because they made a bomb that was able to blow up underwater.
Oh.
And then they were like, well, now how can we use this? How can we make this worth our while of making the bomb?
Yeah.
So they contacted George Washington and asked for funds to be able to start the process of building this crazy idea of something that you could put a man in and go underwater for longer periods of time and attach a bomb to the bottom of a British boat.
So they'd like drive right up to it.
Yes. They called it the Turtle.
Huh?
Bushnell went, and after he got approved for some funds, he went and found this guy named Isaac Doolittle. Doolittle was known for his very intricate designs. He made clocks, printing press, compass, and surveying instruments. So like very precise stuff that he was involved in.
Yeah.
And he was brought on to help design this submarine. They called it the Turtle. Their first iterations of it were terrible failures. Could not figure out the way of like making it that somebody could actually breathe in it for a longer period of time. Like you'd use up all the oxygen in it.
Yeah.
And they eventually figured out that you could make something that allows air to go in, but also pushes air out that's really small, that sticks just barely above the surface of the water. And those are actually still used in today's submarines. A better design, but still that same concept.
Yeah.
But the submarine was powered by hand and feet. You're in a 10-foot by 6-foot by 3-foot box, basically, that has a propeller in the front, and you have to crank the propeller with your hand to make it go forwards or backwards, depending on which way you crank it. But then you have one controlled by your feet that will lift you up or pull you down.
Okay.
This thing took insane amount of strength and endurance for whoever was in charge of powering it.
Yeah, I'd
Because you
imagine.
had to do all of that and control like being able to attach a bomb while staying afloat at the right depth.
Huh. Yeah. So I guess you wouldn't be able to stop pedaling, or else you'd just float back up to the surface, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So their first attempt with this submarine was on a British ship called the Eagle. They did it middle of the night in 1776.
Yeah.
This ship was one of the most heavily armored ships from the British, and it was parked at the dock, and they took this submarine out, and there's records of the guy, whenever he got back, saying that the current where he was at was much stronger than the current anywhere else that he was practicing.
Hmm.
So it took a lot more strength for
Yeah.
pedaling and everything. Um, because if you're working against it and you're just cranking with your hand,
But yeah,
I
by
mean,
arm. Oh.
oh, you wear yourself out in no time.
Yeah.
And he managed to sneak up the whole way in the dark, mind you. He's in
Mhm.
underwater in the dark, and he snuck up to the bottom of the boat, went to attach this bomb that was
Mhm.
powered pretty much the exact same way that a musket was. It was a flint striking, but it was like set on a timer
Wow.
so the guy could get away.
Yeah.
So he gets over to the hull of the boat and he goes to stab it in because like you stab it into the wood and it sticks into the wood.
Okay.
Sounds like something out of like a Mission Impossible movie.
Is that like so would they basically just the bomb was attached to the outside and you just ram until it was into the boat and then back up or
No, it had like little arms
okay.
that you also had to control while controlling the
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Um it honestly, think of like a giant robot in a cartoon movie, and you got like
Mhm.
this whole array of buttons and controls in front of him, and he's like going nuts, hitting everything.
Yeah.
That's what I picture this guy was like.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
I'd be so busy.
and he gets up and he tries to stab it in, and he can't get it to stab in. He hits
Mm.
metal. Well, it
Mm.
turns out the British, to be able to get their ships to survive better along the American coast, because, very different creatures are in the ocean here as compared to
Yeah.
over in Europe. There's some stuff here that would eat the wood that the ships were made of. Well, they started lining their ships with copper and nickel and just like cheaper metals like that they could do
Yeah.
to make it that even if the wood did get eaten some, it still would float. And that foiled the plan terribly for the submarine. So the guy ended up having to retreat, but as
Mhm.
he was retreating, he said that he was seen by some of the soldiers. So he takes this like rod basically that the bomb was on and
Mhm.
releases it and lets it kind of float away in the current to distract them while he sinks down lower and then gets away.
Hmm.
Well, due to the design of it, unless he was up next to the top of the surface, he only had 20 minutes of air.
Yeah.
He was already pedaling that thing for quite a while. He
Mhm.
was getting worn out.
Right.
He had to stay at a low depth and get
Man.
away in a stronger current than what he
Yeah.
was used to. Uh, I mean, he made it away, lived fine and everything from that attack, like
Mhm.
from that attempt at least.
Yeah.
But that would take so much strength to try and pull yourself away in that.
Wait, so did he succeed?
No, the ship didn't blow up.
Okay.
The metal stopped him from succeeding.
Yeah, he wasn't able to get it in.
They then attempted it two more times using the turtle.
Mhm.
No successful attempts ever made.
Oh.
And the British blew up. So they would take the turtle out on a boat and drop it in.
Mhm.
And the British ended up attacking the boat that had it on,
Okay.
and it was lost in the sea. There's some people that claim that it has been found, but there's no real proof of that.
Yeah.
Although a lot of museums do have replicas of what it would have looked like,
Mhm.
and it is the most crammed up design ever. Like
Yeah.
I truly don't like any pictures showing of how somebody fits in it, they
Yeah.
barely fit. And they have all this stuff that they gotta do at the same
Yeah.
time.
Wow.
But yeah, the US technically, what, before they became the United States, I suppose, because it was during the Revolutionary War, but
Mhm.
technically came up with the first design for a submarine.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, I remember stuff about submarines like in the Civil War,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I think maybe they might have been like the first metal
Mm.
submarines or something. I could
Yeah,
be
these
totally
ones
wrong,
were
but
wood and bronze, kind of
mhm.
built like a barrel, honestly.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
it was covered in tar to make it waterproof.
Yeah.
Yep. It's and the first ever propelled, like, using a propeller,
Yeah.
watercraft.
Yeah.
That seemed interesting to me. I just assumed that it would have had stuff like that before, but it makes sense that they wouldn't have because that's
Yeah.
all they would have used sails.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, sailing out on open stuff, and then like they would use like the Lewis and Clark. They'd make their way up the river, and they'd have poles
Mhm.
that you'd stick down into the ground and push with.
Yeah. Yep.
But I didn't know that.
But yeah, they said that it was actually small enough that it would be able to be used in some rivers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of crazy.
Yeah. Imagine using a submarine in a river.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe how long ago the first submarine
Right.
was made. I just assumed they were more of a later on invention.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not the kind of thing you would think of way
Mhm.
back then. But
I just love how it all started because two college kids made a bomb
hmm
that could blow up underwater.
yeah, that's pretty fascinating. A flint striking
Yes. Yep.
bomb underwater. I guess it would just be watertight,
Yeah.
and then once
And they had
it
some
blew up,
timing mechanism with it.
yeah,
There's truly not a ton out there about the turtle.
no, huh,
No. No, it's like it was kept so secretive. Like
yeah,
he would talk with George Washington and stuff, and
mm-hmm,
well, George Washington actually there's accounts of him writing people about the turtle and about the guy that made it and saying that like this guy was a genius in the way of his like battle tactics,
yeah,
but kind of just it was ahead of its time sort of thing.
yeah, hmm, yeah. That's pretty wild. So like maybe I'll do a topic one of these days on like all the different things that George Washington did during the war,
Yeah.
like because he obviously he's known as a general that fought the war, won, but he was involved in pretty much everything. I
Yeah.
mean,
I
everything from what kind of articles were written in newspapers.
really.
Yeah, it was like the what do you call that? Propaganda.
Okay.
He was basically running the propaganda campaign.
Wow.
And so like all these little details that you would think he was, he was just out there fighting battles. No, he was also
Mhm.
involved in all that stuff, developing different
Yeah.
technology. Like he was hands on with so many different elements of that war.
Mhm. Yeah, I found the quote that he wrote to Thomas Jefferson actually.
Okay.
A letter he wrote in 1785 is
Mm-hmm.
Bushnell is a man of great mechanical powers, fertile in inventions and master of execution.
Hmm.
Imagine George Washington saying that
Yeah.
about you.
Yeah. What a compliment.
Yeah. Yep.
Hmm. Well, my turn now.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Now, when you think of American history,
Mhm.
not inventions, what is like your first earliest American events? It's the Pilgrims coming across the
Yeah.
ocean, and they set up their colonies. They barely get by. Hundreds of people die. And then there's this friendly Indian,
Mhm.
Squanto,
Okay.
who helps them learn how to hunt, how to farm corn,
Yeah, yeah.
And then they are successful in gathering food, growing crops to the point that they can survive. Well, here's basically what I remember from like elementary history lessons is Squanto helped the Pilgrims. He translated for them. He taught them how to grow corn, and he was at the first Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
That's pretty much it. But doesn't that leave you with some questions?
Kind of, yeah.
Like what's one of your biggest questions?
So, how did he like I thought that the Indians were like always at battle with the settlers and stuff. I didn't know that
Mhm.
they had peace like that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Thanksgiving story, but
Mhm.
I didn't know if that was even true, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, and so one of my biggest questions based on that just little snippet of Squanto is how the heck did he translate?
Yeah, that was my second one.
Yeah. So I looked into him.
Okay.
So this is the story of Squanto. The full name is Tisquantum. So I'll be using Squanto or Tisquantum, same guy. And I don't know if that was actually like his birth name because Tisquantum means something like the wrath of God.
Mm.
So the one place I was reading said like the pilgrims show up and you'd have this guy walk up and introduce himself and go, I am the wrath of God.
Mm.
Like that's his name.
Okay.
But
What a terrifying
well, yeah,
introduction that would be.
if you knew what it meant, I mean, they
Yeah. Yep.
most likely didn't. But so, anyways, Squanto, full name to Squantum. He was living in the Patuxent region around what is present day Plymouth, Massachusetts. So on the coast of
Okay.
Massachusetts. There's not much known about his early life and childhood. He was most likely born sometime around 1580,
Okay.
and his childhood home would have been a dome built out of arched poles. And during the winter, they would cover them with tightly woven mats, like made out of long grass and stuff. And then in the summer, they'd be covered with just thin sheets of bark.
Okay.
The Patuxet tribe, which he grew up in, was part of the, and I'm going to do my best. I didn't look up every single Native American word for pronunciation, but I don't think I'm doing too bad. And also, I kind of go back and forth between Native American and Indian.
Mm.
It's just depending what sources I was reading,
Yeah.
they would refer to them in different ways. So I kind of just used both. Uh, but, anyways, the Patuxet tribe, which he
Every
grew
time you
up
say
in,
Patuxent, I think of like Punxsutawney.
oh, yeah, yep, that's a Native American name.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yep. And they were all, I believe it was the Algonquian language.
Mm.
That was like a language category for the Native Americans. There were a lot of tribes that spoke different variations of Algonquian,
Okay.
and those would have been all across the northeast of what is today the United States. A lot of those tribes, even if they didn't speak exactly the same, they could still communicate.
Mhm.
So a lot of those words would be pretty similar.
Yeah.
So yeah, Patuxet, Punxsutawney, not too far off.
Mhm.
Anyways, the Patuxet tribe was part of the Wampanoag Confederation, and it was filled. The families were very tight knit, very close, loving families. And that Wampanoag Confederation would have included a handful of separate tribes that fell under this one like top chief.
Okay.
So Squanto would have likely began learning archery at 2 years old.
Yeah. Wow.
And the primary goal of his early education would have been honesty and bravery. Uh, Some scholars believe that Tisquantum was selected to become this one I did look up pronunciation for, but Penice or just Nice, possibly. Pniese. I'm going to say
Okay.
Penice just because it sounds different
Mm-hmm.
than another English word. But
Yeah.
a Penice was a sort of bodyguard and advisor to the chief. So
Okay.
it'd be like being a Secret Service agent.
Yeah.
So a Penice would go through training to master the art of ignoring pain.
Oh my.
They were subjected to experiences such as running bare-legged through brambles and drinking bitter juice until they vomited over and over and over, just learning to ignore pain.
Hmm. Wow.
So he would have been a tough guy.
He'd be one of those people that could walk across those coals barefoot.
Yeah, not flinch.
Yeah. Man.
So in 1605, he would have been around 25 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I will say it this way. He may have been abducted by a guy named George Weymouth, along with 4 other Native Americans, and taken back to England. They would do that, like take him back kind of as trophies to show off.
Wow.
Yeah. But like I said, he may have been abducted in 1605. Don't know that there's enough evidence to definitively say that. From what I found, it was like he could have been. He might have been
Mm-hmm.
part of this group that was abducted.
Yeah.
And if so, he learned the English language and was hired then to act as a guide and an interpreter for an American expedition in 1614,
Mm-hmm.
9 years later, by John Smith, whose name you might recognize
Mm-hmm.
related to Pocahontas,
Yeah. Yep.
because John Smith did have some interactions with Pocahontas. It's not like the movie, but they did interact. And it like I said, if he was abducted in 1605, then he likely was hired to go on this expedition to be a guide and interpreter. And he'd be left in America then. He'd be back home.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, his return wouldn't last long.
Poor guy.
Yeah. Thomas Hunt, who was one of John Smith's lieutenants, was left in America with a second ship off the coast of Maine, and he was supposed to load the ship with dried fish before departing to return to England. John Smith had already departed.
Okay.
And this is a much more widely agreed upon event than the previous possible abduction.
Okay.
Thomas Hunt made an expedition into Patuxent country, and he tricked a couple dozen Indians into boarding his ship, telling them they wanted to trade. So they came onto the ship to see what they could trade, and he had other motives. The sailors shoved the Indians into the hold at gunpoint. They actually fired their weapons and killed a few of them.
My.
So they ended up taking 19 back to Europe.
And he was a part of that. Hmm.
They were taken to Spain, where Hunt tried to sell them into slavery.
Okay.
And the Spanish Catholic Church was strongly opposed to that. And they actually took the slaves from Hunt, at least some of them, and gave them food and lodging, and they hoped to educate and convert them to their religion.
Okay.
Now, Squanto would end up living in London, where he was kind of like he lived with a guy, but that guy kind of used him like a peculiar piece to show to other people.
I almost feel like that would be similar to the live action Tarzan movie
Mm-hmm.
where they bring this guy that was raised in the jungle out and try and
Yeah.
live in the city.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like that's about what he would be like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You'd be way out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
But like I said, he ends up living in London, and the guy who he was living with also was teaching him English.
Okay.
And he would end up being sent to an outpost in Newfoundland, which is up like north of Maine, Canada. He was likely sent on that trip to be an interpreter, and also he was just an expert on North America.
Yeah.
And finally, in 1619, returned to Patuxent, so 5 years after he was abducted. Well, when he arrived back to his home, Tisquantum found that nobody was there. The little community there was completely abandoned. And as he was walking around looking for people, he would come across just hundreds of dead bodies that were just left. Tens of thousands of Native Americans were killed by disease, probably
Mm.
brought over by Europeans.
Oh, because their
And
bodies wouldn't have had a
yep,
tolerance build up.
yep, but thousands of Native Americans died because of that. And it's estimated that 75% of the Wampanoag
Mm-hmm.
had died.
Wow.
Yeah. So at first, Squanto ended up staying in Maine with Thomas Dermer, who is the man who brought him back to the Patuxent area. He lived with him there because he couldn't find any of his people, but he didn't feel comfortable living with him permanently. So he set off from Maine toward Massachusetts, where he grew up.
Mm-hmm.
During his trip, he was captured by the leader of the Wampanoag. And that guy, the chief, his name is Massasoit.
Okay.
Massasoit, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to call him Massasoit. He was brought to live in the Wampanoag village where Massasoit could keep an eye on him because he didn't trust Squanto. He had too much of a relationship with the English.
Mm. Okay.
In late 1620, only 1 year after his return to America, the Mayflower lands in the Patuxent Harbor.
Okay.
Tisquantum was part of an Indian delegation that met the Pilgrims to make peace in spring 1621, a few months after the Pilgrims arrived.
Mm-hmm.
Massasoit first sent a different Indian named Samoset, who was from Maine and learned some English from fishermen that came through that area. So
Okay.
Massasoit sent him in, Samoset, by himself to speak to the English. But he quickly realized he was not fluent enough to negotiate with the Pilgrims. So he left and returned a few days later with Tisquantum, and
Okay.
Massasoit wanted him to negotiate peace between the English colony and the Wampanoag Confederation,
Mm-hmm.
with an agreement that if either one was attacked, the other would come and help
Okay.
defend them. So it was like a trade agreement and also
Allyship, kind of.
a little bit of a military alliance.
Mm-hmm.
But Squanto was successful in his negotiations, and instead of returning to the Wampanoag camp, where Massasoit basically had him under like house arrest to keep an eye
Mm-hmm.
on him, he decided to stay with the English there at Plymouth. And this is
Okay.
where he acted as a translator and a guide and just a general helper
Yeah.
to the new colony. And
Help
this
them
is
get off
when
their
he
feet and stuff.
yeah, this is when he started teaching the English where to hunt and then how to plant corn, beans, and squash.
Mm-hmm. Was he the one that was like put the dead fish down and
Yeah, and
okay.
I came across a little bit relating to that like maybe he did teach them that, but that's also something that people in Europe were doing already.
Oh, okay.
So like maybe he did teach them
Mm-hmm.
that, but also they may have known that.
Yeah.
But Squanto also had some selfish motives for befriending the English. Because he spoke English, he had a great amount of power in the English interactions with other Indians in the region.
Okay.
And he realized most of the Indians feared the English, especially their guns.
Hmm.
So Squanto started accepting bribes to put in a good word for someone, put in a good word with the English,
Okay.
and then he threatened other Indians. But he was a powerful guy, just as this middleman.
Yeah.
To Squantum, he ended up gathering a few of the original Patuxet tribe.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few that survived from the disease, but they had moved to the Wampanoag tribe.
Okay.
So he gathered up the Patuxet survivors and started moving into their original community, which was closer to Plymouth,
Hmm.
where the colonists were.
Yeah.
And he hoped to use his influence to make Patuxet the center of the Wampanoag Confederation, which would strip Massasoit of his power. So he wanted to
Okay.
build up his own tribe, be the chief there,
Yeah.
and because of his connections with the English and his influence,
Mm-hmm.
he would try to take over the Wampanoag Confederation.
Mm.
Well, when fall arrived, the Pilgrims' first corn harvest made their situation much better, and Massasoit arrived in Plymouth with around 90 men, most of whom were armed.
Okay.
And the Pilgrim militia marched around and fired their guns in the air. After both sides kind of did their little show of strength, they were satisfied and they sat down to have a feast. And that is the first Thanksgiving.
Okay.
It was kind of a typical thing, a harvest festival.
Yeah.
So it's not like this was an original idea. It was, hey, we had a successful harvest. Let's celebrate with our new allies.
Mm-hmm.
And the alliance between Plymouth and the Wampanoag would last about 50 years.
Wow. Okay.
But it ultimately ended in war that would completely ruin the Wampanoag tribe.
So you
Now,
said that they were like extra scared of the guns that the
mhm,
English brought over.
yeah.
To them, that probably would have been like witchcraft.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it'd be something that they didn't understand.
Yeah. They point a stick at me and then I have a hole in me.
Right. And it's super loud.
Yeah. And a big fireball comes out of the end of it.
Yeah.
Because with those, that would have happened.
Right. Yeah. Now, meanwhile, Squanto kept working toward his personal ambitions.
Mm-hmm.
He even intimidated people who resisted him with threats that the English could release the plague that had already killed so many of the Native Americans.
Oh my goodness.
He told them basically they have a secret stash buried, and if they need to use it, they will.
Oh my.
Which, like, chemical warfare type thing.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
That would be absolutely terrifying from the Native American
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah, because they've already lost so many people to those diseases. He also attempted to manipulate the English into killing Massasoit by telling them the Indian chief was planning to lead a joint attack against Plymouth with the Narragansett tribe.
Hmm.
Now, he was a little bit clever in the way he did this.
Okay.
He arranged to have another Patuxet mention this supposed plot against the English while Squanto was away with a group of pilgrims. And this
Hmm.
was to make him look innocent in this plot. Like he wasn't even there
Mm-hmm.
when they first heard about this threat.
Yeah.
And he expected that the pilgrims would set off to kill Massasoit. However, Bradford, the governor of the Plymouth colony, immediately called that separate party that Squanto was with, called them back.
Hmm.
And then one of Massasoit's other Panice, one of his
Mm-hmm.
bodyguards, who had learned some English. He was also staying there in Plymouth, I think basically to keep an eye on Squanto. But he heard about these rumors that Massasoit was going to attack, and he vehemently denied it. It's like, that's not happening. They're not working with the other tribe.
Mm-hmm.
So Bradford sent a Native American woman to check in on Massasoit's action and found that there was no such plot. They were not preparing for war.
Oh,
So he sent in like his own
yeah.
little spy.
Yep.
Well, Massasoit found out, and he demanded that the English execute Squanto. But Bradford refused. To Squantum's language skills were way too valuable.
Yeah.
Well, again, Massasoit is angered by that.
I'm sure.
So he cut off all contact with the Pilgrims.
Hmm.
No trade, no communication. Anybody that he had that was living in the Plymouth colony,
Mm-hmm.
they left. They went back to live with the Wampanoag people.
Yeah.
A lack of rain that year withered the Pilgrims' crops, and now, without the Wampanoag trading, they
They
had
have
no
like,
means to supplement
yeah.
their harvest.
Yep.
And now Squanto at this point was a marked man. They wanted the other Native Americans wanted him dead.
Nobody would trust him after that.
Right. And he couldn't leave Plymouth without an escort or he'd be killed.
Crazy how he was supposed to be the bodyguard,
Mm-hmm.
and now he has to have bodyguards essentially.
Yeah, and he was like raised on that path, but then when he was kidnapped and taken to England, then like the chief didn't trust him to do that. He couldn't leave Plymouth without an escort, and he accompanied Bradford to southeast Cape Cod to negotiate another agreement with another tribe.
Mm.
And during that trip, Squanto suddenly became violently ill.
Huh. With one of the plagues.
Something.
Yeah.
He asked Bradford to pray for him and started giving instructions on different gifts to give to some of his English friends.
Hmm.
Just a few days later, Squanto died, November 1622. So he was likely in his early 40s at that point.
Yeah.
He had only been a translator and helper to the English colony for about 20 months.
Really?
Yet he is one of the few that is taught to very young children,
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy.
Yep.
But
Played that much of a role though.
he did. He was very influential. Just his translating abilities would have made him very influential. And like I said earlier about like the Algonquian language,
Mm-hmm.
he would have been able to translate for many different tribes,
Yeah.
which is why Bradford said, I'm not going to kill him. Like, I need him for that.
Yep.
But it's not known exactly what illness he had. And some people have speculated, there's no evidence one way or another, but some people have speculated that he may have been poisoned
Mm.
because he became so violently sick and died so fast.
Yeah.
But like I said, there's no evidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I never thought about like how much power a translator could truly have.
Yeah, and he would have been like the only one, which
Yeah.
there's like a couple other kind of curious things from his life. Like, even if he was only abducted the one time and taken to Europe,
Mm-hmm.
that's enough to explain how he learned English and all of that. But how did he manage to get himself back to America?
Yeah.
And none of the other people that were kidnapped seem to have done that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they had, they would
You'd
have
have more translators.
you'd have more translators, and they were all abducted from the same area. So
Yeah.
they likely would have all gone back there.
Mm-hmm.
So then Massasoit, he would have said, I don't like Squanto. I'm taking one of the other ones.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that's kind of odd. Like, how, I don't
And he
know.
tricked some of the other Indians into getting on that boat. That I don't know. That's kind of backstabbing there.
Well, not Squanto. Squanto didn't.
Okay,
He
I
he
thought that
was
you were saying
tricked
he did.
with. No. No,
Okay.
he was tricked along with the other Indians by that hunt.
Okay, so he was one
Yeah.
of the 19, I think you said that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. He was kidnapped. But
Hmm.
yeah, a lot more to his story than what I knew before.
Mhm.
And really kind of a fascinating life considering how young he died
Yeah.
and
Yep.
how short his time was with the Pilgrims.
Yeah. Yep.
But
I
it,
guess I never really did think about, like, how would he have learned English to be able to translate?
yeah, I remember thinking that. I mean, probably not when I was 8 years old, first hearing about it, but at some
Yeah.
point thinking, like, man, how, like, he translated for them. I know that, but how in the
Mhm.
world?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but like I said, he might have been abducted there in 1605, which would have put him at about 25 years old.
Mhm.
Uh, and then wouldn't if that one was true, then he wouldn't have returned until 1614. So that would have been 9 years in England. And
Mhm.
then when he was abducted again in 1614, he didn't return until 1619. So that would be another 5 years.
Yeah.
So it'd be 14 years
Yep.
if
Hmm.
both of those actually happened.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I
About
mean,
half of his life, or about a third of his life.
yeah, exactly. Would have been quite a bit. So you
Mhm.
think at 25 years old, and then you spend basically all of the next 14 years in a foreign country learning their
Mhm.
language, their culture, all of that,
Mhm.
then I mean, it makes sense why the chief didn't trust him.
Yeah.
Like, you're not really one of us anymore.
Yep. Yeah. No, I that makes sense.
Yeah, interesting character. I really enjoyed reading about some of this stuff, and I had to filter through a lot because there's a lot of like other little side things with Massasoit or
Mm.
John Smith. Like, if he accompanied John Smith,
Mhm.
which again, that all hinges on him being abducted that first time. But if that's true, if he did accompany John Smith,
Mhm.
he likely would have been there when John Smith met Pocahontas.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Very likely.
Help do some
But
of the translating there, maybe.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Huh.
And then Pocahontas ended up following a similar path. She was married to an English guy who
Mhm.
took her back to England, and
Learned
she ended
some
up,
English.
yeah, and she ended up dying really young.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, her marrying an English guy, I don't know how willing that was,
Yeah.
or if that
That's
was kind of forced.
I kind of had the same thought as I don't know if that was
Yeah.
really her choice much, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyways, that's my story. And by the way, if anybody listening wants to read a little bit more in-depth account of his story and the early interactions between the Plymouth colony and the Native Americans, one of the links that I will have is from Smithsonian Magazine.
okay.
It's a very, very long article, had a lot of information.
Hmm.
I don't even think I read all of it because it was just so much, but a
Yeah.
great resource if you want a more in-depth story. I guess that's a wrap on this one.
Yep. Yep.
Thanks
Seems that
everybody for
way.
listening. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, review, whatever your platform allows, and check us out on Instagram. I think what is it, Listen Bro Pod
Yeah. Listen, bro, pod.
on Instagram, where there will be photos coming out, probably a couple posts throughout the week of photos from our most recent episode,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll put anything on there that we find interesting. So thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next one.